do it continuously, I get sexually unstable.
He starts by massaging and inserts his entire hand in my vagina. And sometimes I felt his hand in my womb.
I think I'm not the first victim, according to the rumor I heard. I believe that is something probably he does to innocent women or wives, people who come seeking medical attention.
And it's random. It's not like every woman I see.
Came inside and then he hugged me. Then things got more intense. He was touching me, kissing my back, fondling my butt, and trying to find his way inside my vagina.
I noticed that he was actually massaging my buttocks and inserting his fingers into my vagina.
I am not aware of any, condition, and in this case, you said lumbar spondylosis. I am not aware of any such condition that would require the patient to be sexually aroused before treatment can be administered. No, it is a surprise.
In 2018, Ifwa, a 30-year-old banker, not her real identity, was introduced to a specialist when she and her husband needed a child. The couple had suffered a traumatic loss and hoped this specialist would help restore their joy.
We have here Dr. Jonathan Ohinin Nkunim of the Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center at Ibadan. Doc, welcome to the show.
Initially, I was kind of reluctant since I didn't really know how he used to operate. I decided to give it a try. I was there at the clinic, and actually, he doesn't do the normal diagnosis that you'll be asked to do a lab and those things. He actually has a way. He checks, I don't know whether your pulse or something behind your palm, which looks strange, but that's how he's able to tell if you have a condition or not. He said he learned it in China.
There's the back of the hand, and it has like 360 points.
Okay.
There, so if I want to check this, which I want to check how you sleep, so I check the pulse and the nerve points. And
okay, so what are you checking now?
I'm checking your sleep ratio, actually.
My sleep ratio?
Yes.
Okay, and?
4 hours, 35 minutes, give or take 10 minutes.
Yesterday?
Yes, last night to this morning.
This guy's a prophet. No, I didn't sleep early. I stayed up late because I was working on a script. So.
And today your eating has been a bit off. You've taken a lot of water, which is good, but your eating is...
Yes, I've taken a lot of water today.
Yes.
And I've just eaten once, something very little.
Okay. Okay. But all in all, you have a very good pulse. Your heart is very, very good.
My heart is good.
Very, very circulation.
Is a liar.
I won't say 100%, but some were kind of accurate, so. And he mentioned that I had a problem with my cervix and that kind of thing. So I needed to do a procedure which would help me to conceive once therapy had been done. I asked what the therapy was about, and he said he had to insert like a probe into my reproductive vagina, let me put it that way. Sort of manipulate certain things there before I would be able to conceive.
Ifwa was not comfortable with the procedure, but it is said that a woman in labor does not hide her private parts from the birth attendant. She was in dire need of a child and had to give in to the requirements of the treatment despite her misgivings about the specialist and the discomfort involved in the procedure.
According to him, before the procedure has to be done, you need to, if you're with your partner has to get you aroused so that your cervix can open. It also sounded strange to me, but I was like, okay, I also want a baby, and if this is what the doctor is saying, of course I need to give it a try.
The facility was not conducive for Ifwa to be aroused by her husband, but as I later found out, that prescription was a bait, a trap which Jonathan Ohinin Kunim employed in order to violate women who visited his facility. Once the woman could not be aroused, he would then take over that responsibility.
He inserted something like a probe, I don't know what it was, into me, and he kept doing his own thing there. So at a point, he would ask my partner that he probably should go and buy ice block or something. And I realized that it's more like, though he didn't penetrate, it was more like he was trying to have sex with me, trying to play with me. He was trying to play with me down there, getting me aroused, and I wasn't feeling comfortable.
After the first session, Ifwa told her husband that she wasn't comfortable with the procedure, but she could not bring herself to tell him the full details. There was something else about the specialist Ifwa did not tell her husband.
He started sending messages that he liked me and all that. I was wondering, why would you do that if I'm your client? Afterwards, he started making advances towards me that he liked me and all that. And of course, as women, we also tend to be vulnerable. And of course, I also, because he's a doctor, I felt this is someone who liked me, but I wasn't really interested. Later, I gave it a try, that I would be seeing him once in a while and that kind of thing. And through that, he had his way with me, and yeah, that was it.
After the affair, Ifwa said she felt guilty and confessed to her husband. He initially forgave her, but she realized he was still battling with it. Her fears that her marriage would get into trouble were confirmed when a court bailiff served her a divorce notice. Her affair with Jonathan Ohenenkunim was the reason her marriage collapsed.
It really affected me, but I was just, a woman who wanted to have a baby. I don't know whether he's a real doctor or a fake doctor.
Jonathan Ohenenkunim is the CEO of Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center at Gbawe in Accra. He describes himself on social media as a doctor by profession and a gospel minister by calling. There are videos of him singing in church, his ministry, drawing worshippers to the altar to kneel and lift up their hands in total submission and supplication to God. Social media photos of Jonathan paint a picture of a loving husband and a doting father. Jonathan's professional profile is well promoted on his personal social media pages as well as the official page of Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center. A Facebook photo of him with a stethoscope around his neck is captioned "Ordained to Heal." On his Instagram page, that same photo is captioned, "I may be a doctor, but the worshipper in me is who I really am." Beneath the self-professed credentials that appear to cement his public profile, there is a part of Jonathan Ohenenkunim that is not advertised. Women like Ifwa who have encountered him say he is a sex predator.
He claimed he liked me and it just happened. But apparently, I've heard cases. It's a rumor I heard. I think I'm not the first victim, according to the rumor I heard. I believe that is something probably he does to innocent women or wives, people who come seeking medical attention. I think it's something he does to take advantage of vulnerable women in the name of the medical profession.
While investigating this story, I made Ifwa send Jonathan Ohenenkunim a message about what happened 2 years ago.
I'm still wondering what made you sleep with me, though you knew I was married.
I wish I knew. I was so attracted to you and didn't know why. I've never been the same since. I just don't know why. Even when I realized things have gone so far, I just couldn't stop myself. I naturally run away from such desire, but with you, all I tried failed. It was my toughest battle yet, and I failed miserably.
So how do you feel, knowing that I am divorced because of you?
So guilty and broken. Have not been myself and always praying for forgiveness. The inability to tell anyone is the most difficult. I have come so close to telling on him out so many times, but I know the end result will be devastating. I'm suffering in my conscience.
In the conversation, Jonathan Ohenenkunim showed remorse, but Ifwa was not the last woman he took advantage of or tried to take advantage of. In March this year, I sent an undercover agent to Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center. Let's call her Stephanie. It began with a phone call.
Please, am I speaking to Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center?
Yes, you are.
Okay, my name is Stephanie Naughty.
Okay.
My back has been hurting for some time now. My lower back, it was, yes, a lot of times it will start from my neck down, then I start feeling the pain.
Do you feel it when you walk?
Yes, and when I stand.
Can you try touching your toes right now?
Like I should bend?
Bend and see where exactly you feel the pain.
Yes, my lower back. You see where your spine is? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Alright. It looks like you're suffering from lumbar spondylosis.
Wow.
At the facility, Jonathan made Stephanie sign a consent form, but it did not include what she would be subjected to. As in the case of Ifwa, he told Stephanie that her treatment would involve sexual arousal. This was despite the fact that the two women had different conditions: the inability to conceive and lumbar spondylosis.
The very first day, he said if we don't take the treatment serious, the back pain serious, it was going to move down my lady parts, basically. And I started thinking, how so? Then he brought some pictures, like some old documentations on something like that, meaning that if it goes down, then they'll have to use force, or they'll have to use an instrument to go down there, basically. Or he would have to use his hand. To avoid that, we'll have to go through the procedure, meaning you have to be sexually aroused for a fluid in your back to move down your lady part, basically.
When Jonathan couldn't get his way with Stephanie, he suggested they had the next treatment in a hotel in La Paz, a suburb of Accra. He said a conducive atmosphere perhaps would enable Stephanie to be sexually aroused so that he could treat her well. This, he said, would come at no additional cost to her. Since we had no control over the environment and did not know what could happen, we declined that offer. But he had a second one. He made an appointment for Stephanie on the Saturday between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, when there wouldn't be any other patient around or workers at the facility.
He came inside and then he hugged me. Then things got more intense. He was touching me, kissing my back, fondling my butt, and trying to find his way inside my vagina, touching my thigh. Basically because I needed to. I was rigid at first. He was telling me to relax because there was nobody here, and I should tune my mind to the fact that if my boyfriend was doing all of this, he was going to work. So he's only doing his work as a medical doctor, and to just get the fluid down, and then you can push the wherever the bone that is not properly there or something, basically.
After that treatment, Jonathan proposed a love relationship to Stephanie. He needed a response by the close of that day. In a WhatsApp conversation, however, we told him that Stephanie would need more time to know about him and decide whether or not to accept the proposal. He agreed. We used this period to get as much information as possible about Jonathan and his practice. He even got suspicious and said we sounded like detectives. On the day Stephanie was supposed to visit the facility and respond to his love proposal, I chatted Jonathan using Stephanie's phone before going to meet him. He completely denied ever sexually assaulting any woman at his facility. When I mentioned Ifwa's affair and the divorce, he said no such thing had ever happened between him and his client until I provided specific details. When I mentioned Stephanie, Jonathan said he liked her, but denied ever sexually assaulting her. He said his affair with Ifwa and her subsequent divorce had hit him so hard that he learned his lessons. He denied ever sexually assaulting any woman at his facility and challenged whoever had evidence to prove it.
Things go on, so I'm really surprised.
You're saying it's not true?
If it were to be true, I should be in jail by now.
If it were to be true that you sexually assault your patient, you should have been in jail by now. Is that what you're saying?
If I have done this, you're a journalist. If somebody comes, you did this to me, and I explain, and things are not in the right way, the person would have taken me on. I will not say that things like that have not come up.
Efua had evidence of her engagement with Jonathan Ohenikunim on her phone. The 4th Estate's undercover agent, Stephanie, also had text messages, phone calls, and audiovisual evidence of her encounter with Jonathan. But there was another woman who had evidence of raw sex at the facility. She's a 28-year-old businesswoman called Essie, not her real identity. She told me a day would come when Jonathan Ohenikunim would deny ever having sex with her, so she recorded one of her sessions at the facility.
He starts by massaging and inserts his entire hand in my vagina. And sometimes I felt his hand in my womb. Then he'd start having sex with me because he said I was too tensed and needed to relax my muscles before the treatment.
By the time Essie was introduced to Jonathan Ohenikunim in 2020, she was contemplating suicide. She had gone to hospitals but could not find a remedy for her sustained backache. She feared she might be paralyzed, but it was the unbearable pain that convinced her that ending her life was a better option.
The pain is so severe, you cannot bear it. Coupled with that, I couldn't move. My body was given electric shocks, and it had gotten to the point that I didn't understand why I should bear this pain. So I was considering committing suicide.
2 days after she first thought about ending her life, someone gave her a lifeline. It was Jonathan Ohenikunin's hotline.
She only told me that he is a neuromuscular specialist and that he is good at these things and I should go and try it.
6 days after she first called him, Essie was driven by a male friend to Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center in Bawe.
The day I got there, to be honest with you, I still couldn't walk, so I was held on both sides before I could painfully move a leg. So gradually, I got there. And when I got there, he saw me and assured me that I would get better, so I shouldn't worry, and that he was going to do his best to ensure that I got better.
Jonathan Ohenikunim has confirmed Essie was in a very bad state when she first visited. He told me she couldn't get out of the car on her own. Her condition had deteriorated so badly that he even contemplated rejecting her. He said this to convince me that it wasn't possible to have sex with a woman in that state, but he did. After tapping the veins at the back of her palm, Essie said Jonathan's diagnosis matched the results of the x-rays and scans she had told him about when Jonathan first inquired about her medical history. He started treating Essie that same day.
He actually came to assess me and started his therapy, mainly massage. He said all he needed to do was to manipulate my bone and my spinal cord to be back in shape so that part of my spinal cord that was pressing on my nerves could be released.
Essie had gone there to treat back pain, and she had not been told that she had any other problem with her reproductive system. That was perhaps what aggravated her shock when the treatment got underway.
I noticed that he was actually massaging my buttocks and inserting his fingers into my vagina. The next I knew, it was his penis, and at that time, I was at a point of desperation. I was in pain. I couldn't shout. I couldn't stop him actually, because I didn't know what he was doing.
Essie said she was too shocked to discuss what had happened at the facility with the so-called specialist after the session. Later that day, however, she sent a WhatsApp message to Jonathan to complain and to ask for an explanation of what happened. His first reaction when Essie made reference to the therapy was to apologize. He then sent Essie an article on pelvic floor physical therapy, to which Essie asked what that had got to do with her. All she knew was back pain and nothing else. He then went on to explain that there were 4 different treatment options. These were new to AC because they did not come up before Jonathan asked her to take off her clothes and lie on the massage table.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get some closure about this. How do I explain to my partner? I needed you to have given me the opportunity to opt for the requirement for the procedure.
According to Section 98 of Ghana's Criminal and Other Offences Code, rape is defined as the carnal knowledge of a female of not less than 16 years without her consent. When Jonathan had an affair with Ifwa in this building, it was without her consent. In fact, his WhatsApp messages confirmed that he didn't even tell Ifwa about the condition that necessitated that kind of treatment in the first place. When Jonathan Ohinin Kunim was having sex with AC without her consent, his wife was 6 feet away. She worked as an administrator at the facility where she sat, and where her husband was having sex with AC are about 6 feet apart. The husband and wife were separated by the wooden boards that partitioned the room.
I felt so bad your wife was in the next room.
I do understand. The plan was not to go too personal like that, but to put you in the mood and get it done. I just went overboard. I'm sorry, I lost control.
How she was nice to me without knowing what had gone on.
Yes, I get you. You did nothing wrong. I did.
I am not aware of any, condition, and in this case, you said lumbar spondylosis. Yes. I am not aware of any such condition that would require the patient to be sexually aroused before treatment can be administered. No, it is a surprise.
So each time he met me, he'd have sex with me. And it wasn't like sex that involved my input. He always made me lie face down and he'll be having sex with me. He starts by massaging you and inserts his entire hand in my vagina sometimes. I felt his hand in my womb.
At a point, Essie thought she was pregnant because Jonathan had ignored her plea to use a condom if he wouldn't stop having sex with her anytime she visited. Fortunately for her, the pregnancy test came out negative, but she contracted a sexually transmitted infection, and Jonathan Ohinin Kunim was the suspected transmitter. So why did she keep going there when Jonathan was not stopping?
I was at a point of desperation. I was in suicidal mode because the pain was unbearable. I just made up my mind that if that's what it would take for me to get back to my feet, I'd have to endure it and be with the consequences.
A business card with the name Dr. Jonathan Ohinin Kunim describes him as a neuromuscular specialist. The services he provides at Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center, as stated on the card, are general diagnosis, neuromuscular therapy, physiotherapy, detoxification and spine straightening. A notice at the entrance of his facility, as well as the official Facebook page of Nature's Hand Therapeutic Center, lists additional services such as Oriental Pulse Diagnosis, Herbal Options, Ghanaian and Chinese, Stroke Rehabilitation Therapy, Sports Massage, etc. In a letter he wrote in April 2021 requesting permission on behalf of Stephanie to enable her undergo the treatment, Dr. Jonathan Ohinin Kunim signed as the head medical officer. Jonathan told Stephanie, the undercover agent, that he was a medical doctor. He said he completed medical school at the age of 23 and went to China to specialize in neuromuscular practice. He then returned to Ghana to work at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital before setting up his own facility in 2018. He said, "My checks from the Medical and Dental Council showed that the council did not have any such name ever licensed as a medical doctor in Ghana. His age, which varied depending on the age of the woman he wanted to sleep with, did not also match the timelines he gave for his education and career journeys." I asked him whether the duration of the medical school was 4 years in his days. and he said no. That was the first time he admitted that he had studied physiotherapy at the University of Ghana and not medicine. But that admission would later prove to be false.
And then,
But did you study physio yourself?
Actually, no.
You didn't do physiotherapy yourself?
Physiotherapy as a course.
A course?
No.
Okay.
But I started going here with a physiotherapy school here.
Okay.
And then finances and other stuff. So
Jonathan Ohenin Kunim said he used his expertise in neuromuscular techniques to diagnose his patients, but treated them with his expertise in physiotherapy. My checks at the Human Resource Department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital revealed that Jonathan Ohenin Kunim had not worked in the facility. Dr. Paul Amankona, the president of the Ghana Physiotherapy Association, told me that the name did not ring a bell in the physiotherapy space in Ghana. Dr. Amankwana, who also works at the physiotherapy department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, said no such person was known to have worked in the department in recent times.
But did you work in Kolebu at the physio unit?
no, I didn't.
You didn't? No. One of your clients told me that you said you worked at Kolebu at the physiotherapy unit for 2 years.
If somebody make a false declaration even to acquire registration, so it's not just about somebody not licensed or not, but even the information that you use to practice is false, that can constitute an offense under the law. And also if you willfully and forcefully uses the name and title, so if somebody is not a physiotherapist and that person claims to be a physiotherapist, that's an offense under the Act. And then when you provide unauthorized service in a licensed facility, the facility may be licensed, but the person who is practicing there, if that person is not licensed, that also constitutes an offense. If your practice doesn't conform to our set standards, that can also constitute an offense.
When the trailer for this investigative documentary was released, Jonathan Ohenin Kunim sent me text messages and followed up with phone calls, threatening to kill himself should we proceed to publish the documentary. He said he could not stand the embarrassment and the shame that would come upon him and his family. I alerted the police and he was arrested. He then confessed that he had violated or sexually abused more women than we found out in our investigation.
What have I not done? Why have I not done this thing?
So what is the main problem? Is it spiritual?
I don't call it spiritual, but you know the technique I told you about the day you came? I can touch your hand there. The neurodiagnostics. I realized that when I do it continuously, I get sexually unstable. So go to a time I stop for some time just so that it won't get me there. Sometimes I've been controlled and it's random. It's not like every woman I see.
You remember the last time we spoke? That's why I actually wanted to confess to you. But I didn't know you that much and I didn't know if I could trust you.